and have your say. Let's talk about our way. Remember, you are not alone. Huda is the light in your home. We'll talk about Huda. We'll talk about our way. Come join us and have your say. Let's talk about our way. Remember, you are not alone. Huda is the light in your home. Remember, you are not alone. Huda is the light in your home.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, dear viewers, to another live episode of Viewers Pulse, and I'm your host for the program, Junaid Dar. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us this option to come together and to serve His beautiful deen. And I'd also like to thank all of the viewers for your continual support, your continual prayers, and your continual comments that you give us on our social media. So I thank all of you for all of your support. Furthermore, my dear viewers, Viewers Pulse is your program. This is an hour for you to communicate with us. It's an hour for you to bring forward your ideas and express your thoughts. What do you think of the channel? What do you think of the programs? It's your opportunity to come together and to serve the beautiful deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Bring it here to us live on this program, and inshallah ta'ala we can try to produce those programs and those things that you would like to see. I mean, there must be topics that you want to hear. There must be programs that you would like to watch. There must be ideas in your head that we would like to hear. Do you know why? Because we want to make Huda TV the best channel. We want to make it a source of good. We want to promote the authentic teachings of the Quran and of the Sunnah. But we can only do that with your support. We need to know, or we'd like to hear from you, what do you think, or what would you suggest we do in order to improve the channel and to improve the programs, or to stay updated. So please do communicate with us. Not just that, but we also look forward to hearing any of your comments, any of your queries, praises. Even if you have criticism, positive criticism, bring that forward, and inshallah ta'ala we can discuss it here live in this program. You can do that through a number of different ways, and the first and the most easiest way in which to communicate with us, especially on this program, is through the phone. And as you can see across the screen there, you will see our two numbers running across the screen. And if you're calling from outside of Egypt, don't forget to use the code which does begin with 002. So please do pick up your phones, do call me, and share your thoughts, your experiences, your questions, anything that you have. Bring it forward, and inshallah ta'ala we will welcome it live in the studio. Not just that, but if for whatever reason you are unable to get to a phone, you can always email us. And our email address, as you can see there on your screens, is pulse@huda.tv, and you can always email us at any time, and we do have a team dedicated to responding to your emails. If you email me here in the studio, I can try my best to address that as well. If not, we will put that to somebody who is more qualified or is able to respond to your email. So do email us, and we do read all of your emails, and we have a list of them in all of our programs, and try to share your thoughts, your ideas, your questions on Viewers Pulse. Now, not just that, but there are alternative ways of communication. One of my personal favorites is Facebook, as is everybody's favorite. You can jump onto Facebook and you can type in Huda TV, and you will see our bright, wonderful, colorful, creative Facebook page, which is full of information, full of Islamic literature, full of Quran verses, full of teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, reminders, links to lectures, all sorts of good is on that page. So take use of that page, and also it gives me great pleasure to mention that we have excelled the 250,000 mark when it comes to the number of likes, and we want to keep going. And we are edging closer and closer to 300,000 likes. My dear brothers and my dear sisters and my friends, I want to encourage all of you to spread this Facebook page, to share it with your friends, to share it with your families, so that everybody can benefit. We want to improve this channel. We want to spread the teachings of Al-Islam to as many people as we can. So please do share this page, and don't forget, it's not just a matter of sharing the page, but it is actually a matter of gaining good deeds. Just imagine you share this page, somebody reads something on that page, and they stop doing something which they've been committing a sin, you get the reward. Or the other side, imagine you forward the page and someone reads a reminder there and they start doing more good deeds. They improve their character, improve their manners, worship Allah more, do that which Allah is telling us to do, which is pleasing to Allah. You will get the reward of that, just like the way the Prophet ﷺ taught us, that if you spread a good deed, then whenever that good is done, then you will get the reward of it, even though you are not doing it. So please do share our page and do help us to promote the page so we can increase the number of likes and we can increase the work that we are doing. Not just that, but there's a key feature on our Facebook page. And what is that? That is a link to our official Huda TV web page. So if you go to our web page, you will see it there. If you type in Huda TV, you will see our official web page. And the benefit of that is the itinerary. You get to see all of our programs 24 hours of the day, 7 days a week. And you can choose the programs that suit your schedule according to your work or your studies, and you can watch the programs which you are comfortable with. So do take benefit of that. Not just that, but our website also has a section dedicated to sisters, a section also where we put up regular articles on modern Islamic issues and problems and solutions. So it's all up on our website. And not just that, but you can also get information about the channel, about those scholars who are involved in the channel, who come and sit in front of the camera and give their lectures, or those who are behind the cameras and give us their moral support. So do take advantage of that. And also, don't forget on the webpage, you'll also get to see a section on the presenters. Who are the presenters at Huda TV? What do they do in front of the camera? And what do they do also behind the camera? So do go to our official website and do check our page and take advantage of that. Furthermore, my dear friends, you can also jump onto Twitter, and if you go on there, twitter.com/ and type in Huda TV channel, you can subscribe to us. And the advantage of the Twitter account is that you are directly linked to our Facebook page. So whenever something new comes up on Facebook, a new lecture, a new thought, a new idea, anything that comes up, you will hear the bleep on your phone or on your pads, whatever you're carrying, and you'll be in constant connection with Huda TV. So please do subscribe to us also on Twitter. Not just that, but another form of communication, and I would personally say this is the most important form of communication, and that is through YouTube. If you jump onto YouTube, type in Huda TV, you'll get to see our channel there. Now, why am I saying it's the most important? Because effectively, we are a TV channel. So you can jump onto YouTube, and just by the click of a button, you get to watch all of our programs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all for free. So this is the benefit of that. So please do subscribe to us on YouTube as well. And not just that, but also the archive. Don't forget that we have a list. All of the programs that we have produced are saved on YouTube, so you can choose them according to date, according to speakers' names, according to titles, whatever pleases you, and you can watch them. And not just that, but you can also contribute to the discussions and the debates. Many of the videos have comments where people give their thoughts and their opinions on what they've just watched, and then you hear some responses from the channel, so you get to engage in a dialogue. So do subscribe to us on YouTube and do take advantage of our live streaming. Our final mode of communication is through Skype, and our Skype address is Huda_TV. So please do add us as your friends on Skype, Huda_TV, and hopefully you'll find our light green and we can communicate either via text or by voice. And inshallah ta'ala, we can take your questions or queries forward from there as well. So you have so many different ways in which you can communicate with us. So do take advantage of all of those and get involved with the channel. Once again, as we reiterate, this is your channel. Huda TV is there to serve your needs and try to produce those things that you would like to watch and those things that you feel are important in your lives. So give us those ideas, give us those thoughts, and then we can try to implement them and put them into practice. Now, as every week, we have the topic of the day. Now, today we have a very interesting topic, and this topic actually requires a lot of involvement from you. Now, you will see an image coming up on the screen very shortly, which will summarize everything that I'm saying. But effectively, what we're going to look at is solutions to this particular problem. Unfortunately, the world is suffering from this problem, and the problem is of poverty. It's very sad to say that poverty is ever growing. You can see in this image now running across your screens, there is a young African boy there who is carrying something on his head, and he's surrounded by litter, and you can see the situation of his house behind him. It's a very sad state, and I wouldn't say it's just Africa, but I would say it's a global problem, and it's very sad, it's very disturbing to see how people are living in such dire conditions even in the 21st century. So I want to hear from you. First and foremost, I want to hear your thoughts on this image. What comes to your mind? What shakes your heart? What brings the tears to your eyes when you see this image? And secondly, and more importantly, dear viewers, I stress again, I would like for every single person who sees this image to jump onto our Facebook page, and you will see it, and that's on Viewers Pulse. Viewers Pulse, you will see this image there right at the top of our page, and I want you to tell us the possible solutions. What are we doing wrong? Why is poverty increasing? Why are so many people suffering? I want to hear what you think of this particular problem and the solutions that we can bring forward to resolve this issue. Now, I want to read to you some statistics. But before I read to you some statistics, I would like to also mention to you that our holy book, the Quran, it tells in a number of places of how poverty is disliked to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how Allah Azza wa Jal, He encourages to justice and to do good things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَادِلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ, that He encourages us, He orders us to do al-adl, which is justice, and He encourages to ihsan, which is goodness and fairness. And this is in direct contradiction to poverty. Not just that, but Allah tells us in the Quran that the shaitan himself, يَعِذُكُمُ الْفَقْرِ, that he himself promises you or tries to threaten you with poverty. SubhanAllah. How you see the contrast, how Allah and His Rasul, how Islam promotes justice and goodness, and how shaitan is the one who is happy when he sees injustice, and especially when he sees poverty. Not just that, but the Prophet ﷺ, he also made mention that poverty almost became known as being kufr, as disbelief. It is that severe. Not just that, but it is also narrated from Umar that he would say that if poverty came in the form of a human being, in the form of a man, then I would certainly destroy it. We can see how severe the threat of poverty is on one's even belief. When one is living in poverty, in dire need, in dire desperation, at that moment that person, if one has not the strength of iman, may commit some acts of kufr, may do things which is outside the framework of al-Islam. So the dangers of poverty are great. So we want to talk about this, and we want to hear your ideas. How can we resolve these issues? How can we try to bring forward some kind of solutions to poverty? Now, let me read to you some statistics, and I think this will really put the picture, put things into perspective. First and foremost, one of the statistics that I found suggests that almost half the world, and that's over 3 billion people, I reiterate, 3 billion people live on less than $2.5 a day. That's 3 million people, they living off $2.50 a day. SubhanAllah, what a large group of people living in such a low level of income. Let me read you another statistic so we can understand the severity of the problem. 1 billion children worldwide live in poverty. According to UNICEF, 22,000 children die each day due to poverty. My dear brothers and sisters, 22,000 children die each day of poverty. Not just that, let me read to you something else. Another statistic, 1 in 4 people live without electricity, and that's a quarter of the world. My dear brothers and sisters, what is going wrong? Why is poverty increasing? Why are people living in such dire conditions? Why is one side of the world dying from obesity when the other side of the world is dying from poverty? How can we change this? How can we possibly bring forward some kind of solutions to this problem? We have a beautiful comment coming from Dua, and she reiterates one simple solution. which is getting back to our religion, because all the rights of the poor and the needy people were mentioned in the Quran, starting with charity, with zakat, and other examples which lead to achieving social solidarity and helping all poor people. That, subhanAllah, from Sister Dua is a beautiful comment. Of course, if we return back to the teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah, the pure teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah, Allah orders us, one of the pillars, of the 5 pillars, is the zakat, is the paying of the zakat. We must give this annual payment for those who qualify. 2.5%. So out of £100, you're giving £2.50, that's all you're giving. And imagine if all those people, the millionaires, gave forward the zakat, not just the millionaires, but all of us, if we gave forward our zakat, where would poverty be? Why was it that in the time of Abu Bakr, in the time of Umar, and in the time of Uthman, in the time of Ali, poverty was non-existent? There was charity, there was money there to be given, and there was no one to come and collect and come and take the money. Why is that the case? Because they implemented the Islamic system and they implemented the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yes, Sister Dua, as you made mention, we need to go back to the Quran, we need to go back to the Sunnah, and we need to pay special attention to zakat, and not just zakat, but also to charity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about sadaqah, charity, in the Quran in so many different verses, and He compares those that give charity to those that being the highest rank of people from paradise. So my dear brothers and my dear sisters, we want to look at this problem of poverty, and I really want to hear your comments. I really want to hear your thoughts. Who do you think is to blame? Who do you think plays a vital role in solving the problem? And what do you think as commoners, as people like me and you, what can we do to play a role in solving this problem? So let's continue with some more information. Some of the ways in which we can try to reduce poverty is, number one, is to break the guilt cycle. Unfortunately, my dear brothers and sisters, maybe you share the same feeling as I do. This is my personal opinion, is that one of the reasons to why poverty manages to remain the way it is or to grow is that some of us, we don't pay any heed. Or how many a times, let me put this into a picture, how many a times have you walked past a person begging or a person in need and you just walked past? You didn't stop to ask, you didn't stop to give, but you just walked straight past that person. Why do we have this kind of mentality, this ability to just walk past a person who is in need? Not just walk past a person, but how many times have we seen on our television screens when people are trying to help or do appeals to the poor, or to the orphan, or to those suffering from war or famine, and yet we don't take any kind of action? So I think the first step, in my humble opinion, is to change our own mindset, to truly understand the nature of the problem, and to truly understand that Islam, it came for social justice. This is the first and most prime thing we must understand. After the worship of Allah, we must understand that Allah gave us this religion for social justice, for equality. And yet we have this mindset of not having that consciousness or that feeling that people are suffering. Second thing, what about sparing some change? My dear brothers and sisters, how many times we walk past somebody who is asking or somebody who is appealing and we don't put our hands in our pockets? So how about if we start digging our hands deeper into our pockets, and then we can start to give just small change, maybe a few, the metal pieces in your pocket, give them away, and you can start this process of giving back to those people that are in need. And I will make mention of one other way of possibly removing poverty, and that is through sponsoring an orphan. It might sound a little strange, but there are so many people out there, so many orphans who are suffering from this problem of not having somebody to support them or to help them. So what about supporting an orphan? What about taking that initiative to go ahead and financially support an orphan? Don't forget that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that the one who supports an orphan will be with me in paradise. Not just that, but there are also 145 million orphans in the world, and that's according to UNICEF in 2007. And these children, they usually lack sufficient care, shelter, food, clothing, clean water, etc. Often these needs can be met with just $1 a day. So my dear brothers and my dear sisters, what about that? What about those of us who are able to sponsor an orphan just financially? And remember the teaching of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, when he taught to his Sahaba and he said that the one who sponsors or helps an orphan will be like that with me in paradise. Two fingers side by side will be like that with me in paradise. How many of us would like to be with the Prophet ﷺ? How many of us want to stand next to the Prophet ﷺ in paradise? How many of us want to get to that level with our iman? So let's try to get involved and try to sponsor an orphan. Number 4, what about volunteering? How about getting involved in charities? Doing some voluntary work. We all live a very busy life. We all have to work 9 to 5, do the duties that we do. But what about giving some time for the sake of Allah? You choose a charity of your choice. You choose a cause which you think is suitable, and you volunteer your time for that particular cause. Make it an hour a week, 2 hours a week, whatever you can dedicate, do some voluntary work. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He talks about those acts that are done voluntarily, and Allah loves those acts. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those deeds that you do, even if they are small, even if you think they are small, but you do them constantly, regularly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves them, and you will get a lot of reward for them. So dear brothers and sisters, let's put this down in our minds of being a volunteer. Choose a charity of your choice, choose a cause of your choice, and what about charity? My 5th piece of advice is reviving the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ when it comes to sadaqah. I mean the concept of zakat, which is obligatory. So we must remind the people, our congregation, our friends and families, they must pay the zakat. That's an obligation and a major sin for those who don't do so. But what about the sadaqah, the extra giving? The money that you give in order to attain extra good deeds. How about we become more charitable and we give more from our pockets? Do you think that will work? Do you think if we have in our house a small charity box, somewhere in our house, dedicated in our house, so whenever we walk past it, if whoever feels so can drop in a penny, can drop in a pound, $1, whatever they have, and when the box is full, you go give that to a charity of your choice. So how about that, my dear brothers and my dear sisters, of getting involved in making a charity box inside of your houses, inside of your masajid, in your community centers, and try to promote teachings of al-Islam. I have another idea and a possible solution to poverty. And I think this would apply to every single person, including myself. My dear brothers and my dear sisters, when you go to your house and you open up your kitchen wardrobes, how many extra cutlery pieces do you have? How many extra things do you have within your kitchen which you haven't touched for years? What about if you go into your bedroom and you open up your cupboard and you see how many clothes and shoes you have? Do you wear all of those clothes? Do you wear all of those shoes? It's a question to be asked. If you do, then that's fine. If you don't, my humble opinion would be to put those all into a black bag, take them down to the local charity, and give them away to those people who would need that. My dear brothers and sisters, in the freezing cold, there are people dying in countries from the cold, from the snow. We've seen images of young children walking in the snow in slippers. SubhanAllah, imagine a mother having to walk and see her child walking in snow in just slippers. And yet we, by the grace of Allah, alhamdulillah, we have the means, we have the shoes, we have the clothes, but yet they're just sitting there. So imagine if that shoe was to be given to somebody who could wear it and could save their lives. So how about that? Cleaning our cupboards and giving those extra things to those people that need so. Okay, so on that note, we will take a very short break. And then when we come back, we have with us a very special guest on the phone. We will hear what they have to say, because they have a very special program. We'll hear about their program. Not just that, but hopefully I'll read out some of your comments on Facebook, which are pertaining to the topic of poverty. So let's take a very short break here, and I'll see you in just a few moments.
Many people judge Islam based on what the Muslims do. The fact is, Islam is perfect, but the Muslims are not. However, it is not hard for us to implement, and there are ways for us to be the ideal Muslims. Join me, Dr. Rayyan Arab, in this new program, The Ideal Muslim, so that we could discover the ways of how we could be ideal Muslims.
Why are we fighting each other? Life a short time runs away.
Huda TV strives to remain the premier English language Islamic channel in the world. And to do so, we need your input. Send us your thoughts, suggestions and feedback through email at feedback@hoda.tv. Huda TV is committed to helping others, so why not help Huda TV share the message of Islam worldwide? Take part in helping spread the authentic message of Islam based on the Quran and the Sunnah throughout the world by sponsoring Huda TV. Don't miss this unique opportunity to gain the reward from Allah.
This is the Deen Show. 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 This is the Deen Show.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Deen Show. From time to time, we answer some of your questions. We have so many important issues that we're dealing with here on the Deen Show, and we encourage you to come back here every week. And if you don't catch us on the TV station, you can go to thedeenshow.com where all of our shows are there.
It is important for us when we look at the issue of holiday myths that we look at the whole picture. And from the beginning of time, people worshipped the Creator in different ways. The Quran tells us in the chapter of the Bee, Surah An-Nahl, وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنْ يَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ.
Maryam, how are you?
Good, alhamdulillah.
Thank you for being with us on the Deen Show.
You're welcome.
So how old are you again?
I'm 8 years old.
I didn't want to get that wrong. 8 years old. And you've memorized how many juz of the Quran?
I memorized 21 juz from the Quran.
21 juz. MashaAllah.
As you know that there is no concept of clergyman in Islam.
There isn't?
There is not.
Okay.
And this idea is supposed to be very liberating. Nobody comes between you and your creator.
Okay.
You do not need an operator. It's a direct call. So Islam rejects the whole notion of clergyman. So a sheikh, imam is a title that is given to a person like myself when the community feels that you're worthy of it. And it's just a title out of respect.
This is the Deen Show. This is the Deen Show. This is the Deen Show.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back after a very short break there here on Viewers Pulse. My dear brothers and my dear sisters, the topic of the day is tackling poverty. You heard me put forward a number of different solutions or things that I thought can possibly work, but what do you think? How can we solve this problem? You can call us in our studio here live. The numbers are there across the screen, and don't forget to use the code if you're calling outside of Egypt, and tell me, what do you think? What are the causes behind this very sad problem of poverty, and what are the possible solutions? Now, we mentioned a few of them, and let me go back and mention a few more, and then we will move over to a very special interview with Abdurrahim McCarthy, who is responsible for a brand new program on Huda TV about No Doubt About It. What does that mean? Exactly, we are talking about the Quran, but we'll come to that in just a few seconds. Now, dear brothers and sisters, another possible solution that I could bring forward in order for us to tackle the issue of poverty is by purchasing those products which are possibly fair trade products. Those things or those products where the companies are responsible companies. Those companies working inside of the Asian continent or the African continent that are not exploiting their workers, that are not abusing their workers. How about refraining from those companies and just buying from fair trade from companies that we know or we have some level of trust that they look after their workers, they look after the environment in which they work in. So how about promoting those products and refraining from those companies which we feel are not ethical? Number 9, I would suggest, what about getting involved politically? My dear brothers and sisters, what about writing to your fellow representatives, your governors, your members of parliament, your congressmen? What about writing to them and telling them about your feelings and your thoughts? How can you possibly change this problem? Raising the awareness, taking it to those that are responsible so that they can take action. Because as a Muslim, it's very difficult to see suffering. It's very difficult to see these issues and then to remain silent. It's not from the manners of a Muslim to accept this kind of oppression. But we must get on our feet, we must stand up high, even if there are risks involved, but we must protect those that are oppressed. The Prophet ﷺ's core message was of justice and equality. My dear brothers and sisters, we're going to watch a short report by Brother Abdul Rahim McCarthy, who talks about the Quran in his program, No Doubt About It. And then when we come back, hopefully we'll get to speak to him over the phone. So let's move over to this very short report.
Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Welcome to our new show here on Huda TV, No Doubt About It, where we're going to take inshallah ta'ala a trip inside of the Quran to renew our relationship with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to revive ourselves and to revive our ummah through the Quran. When we look into the Quran and the impact and the effect that the Quran is supposed to have upon us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the effect that the Quran has. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون. That if we had sent down this Quran upon a mountain, and pay attention to this, upon a mountain, you would have seen it humbled and coming apart from the fear of Allah. And these are the examples that we present to the people that perhaps they will give thought, they'll think. This is the impact and the effect that the Quran has upon a mountain. Rocks. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down the Quran upon the mountain, you would see it becoming humbled and coming apart out of the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now the question all of us need to ask ourselves now is, does the Quran have an impact on us, on our hearts, on our lives, on our actions, like it has an impact on the mountain? Or are our hearts harder than rock? Harder than these rocks, harder than the mountains, where the Quran is not benefiting the heart. It's not having an impact. It's not affecting our actions. Let's be honest with ourselves. And the reality is, most of us are not affected by the Quran. But when we look into the way of the Sahaba and the Salaf who came after them, and how the Quran impacted their lives. Abdullah ibn Urwa ibn Zubayr radiyallahu an and rahimahullah, he said, I asked my grandmother, who was Asma, the daughter of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhuma. He said, I asked my grandmother, how were the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam إِذَا سَمِعُوا الْقُرْآنِ? If they heard the Quran, how did it impact them? How did it affect them? He said, or she said, radiyallahu anha, that the tears would come down their eyes. You would see the tears in their eyes, and you would see their skin shivering, just as Allah described in the Quran. We look at the other verses when Allah describes the believers, that their skin shivers, that the tears come in their eyes when they hear the ayat, the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is how the ashab, the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, this is how they were impacted and affected by these verses. Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu an, when he was walking through Medina one night, he heard somebody reciting the Quran. And he was reading from Surah At-Tur until he came to the verses, إِنَّ عَذَابَ رَبِّكَ لَوَاقِعْ مَا لَهُ مِن دَافِعْ. That the adhab, the punishment of your Lord, that it is going to happen. There's no dafi', there's nothing that can turn it back. And hearing these verses, Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu an, he said that truly the promise of my Lord is haqq, it's truth. And it had such an impact on him that he became sick, radiallahu an. And he was sick, laying in the bed for an entire month. An entire month. The impact that this verse had upon him, radiallahu an, that the adhab, the torment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's waqi', it's coming, and there's no dafi', there's nothing that can hold it back. The people were visiting him, radiallahu an, in his house, and not knowing why. What happened to Umar? What is his illness? Why is he sick? All of this because of two little verses he heard from the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It had a huge impact on him.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, dear viewers, after watching a very short report there by our Sheikh Abdul Rahim McCarthy, who was talking about the Quran and the importance of understanding the meanings of the Quran. Unfortunately, many a times we are disconnected with the Quran because we don't understand it. We listen to it and we appreciate it and we are moved by the sound and the vocals of the Quran, but yet the meanings sometimes are slightly away from us, and we must get closer to the Quran in order to build our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you can see the stories of the Prophet ﷺ and the stories of the companions and how they would hear certain verses from the Quran and it would move their hearts, it would make their tears come out of their eyes. So let's talk to the presenter or the producer of the program, Sheikh Abdul Rahim McCarthy, who is on the phone with us. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you doing, Sheikh, today?
I'm very good, alhamdulillah. How about yourself, Yahya?
Alhamdulillah. Sheikh, the first question I would like to ask you about this program is about the title itself, No Doubt About It. Can you tell us a bit more about why you selected this title?
Yes, this is taken from, obviously, as soon as you open the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends a very strong message to the reader. When you see there on the second page in the second chapter and Surah Al-Baqarah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ, that this is the book, there's no doubt about it. So it's a very strong, a very powerful message to the reader, and it's something, that we need to remind ourselves of the power of the Quran, the power of the book that we're reading, and how it should be impacting our lives. So that's where we came up for the title for this new program, No Doubt About It, La Rayba Fi.
Excellent. And Sheikh, so what is the end goal or the purpose behind this program?
Well, the aim and the goal, first of all, I was looking at something and I wanted to benefit myself. What do I need myself? And what does the Ummah need as well? And the issue, of where we reach as an Ummah, the main problem that we have, I feel, is that we're far away from the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the objective is, first of all, how to revive the Quran into our lives, and then, and as individuals and as an Ummah, and then we went into detail as well about how to reflect on the Quran. Because even if some of us do read the Quran, we don't reflect on the Quran. So that's the problem. So we went in depth and in detail in this series about how to reflect, and different keys that open up for us on how to reflect and contemplate on the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay, excellent. And Sheikh, could I ask you to just give us a breakdown of the program in terms of content? What are the major subjects that you touch upon during the program?
Yes, basically, if you look at it, you can break it down into 2 or 3, different, main topic areas. And in the beginning of the first few episodes, we go into how much we're in need of the Quran, to remind ourselves of how much we're in need of the Quran and how to revive ourselves in the Quran. Then we go into detail about what it is, if we're going to be able to benefit from the Quran, how to do it, and how to revive the Quran in our lives, and how to benefit from the Quran. And then after that, we go into detail about how to reflect on the Quran in serious depth, about all of the things, the tools, practical tools, that we implement and act upon them, that's going to help us to reflect on the meanings of Allah, on the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay, excellent. Sheikh, you also mentioned that one of the reasons to why you selected this particular program was the fact that you yourself, you needed this revival of getting closer to the Quran. So could I ask you, throughout the recordings, could you tell about some of the moments where you had a spiritual awakening or you felt alive, some of the key moments during recordings?
Well, first of all, one of the things that really impacted me is that before, when I came up with the idea, is that I was, thinking about how much effort we put into the tafsir, into the reflecting upon the Quran. And I felt that I needed to add more into my own personal life. And then I read a story about Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah when he was in prison, rahimahullah, before he passed away. And obviously then he didn't have his books or anything. The only thing he had with him was the Quran. He would revise the Quran from his memorization, and then he would obviously reflect on its meanings. So what he said before he passed away, rahimahullah, he said, I wish that I had put any more time and more effort in my life into reflecting on the meanings of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And here is an individual, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, who used to say that he would go back to more than 100 tafsirs for the meaning of one verse. So how much effort he put into understanding the Quran, but yet at the end of his life he said he wished he had reflected more on the Quran. So that was an inspiration for me, because I also felt the same thing, that we need to spend more time reflecting on the Quran. And then when I found that, that's kind of what inspired me as well. Many of the things you'll see in the series that I have, it's very moving and very inspirational. And actually I did a little clip when I finished the 30th episode about, how, hands down, this was my favorite show that I've done. And I've done for Hulu TV, the third series that we finished. We did Missing Ingredients, which was about, how to obtain pleasure in the prayer. And I loved that. And also we did Tarbiyah, also, which I teach a lot, and I love that as well. But this, hands down, it was my favorite show and the most inspirational for myself, alhamdulillah.
Excellent, very nice. Sheikh, could I also ask you about possible future plans? What do you hope to record in the future? What subjects would you like to touch upon?
We have a lot of ideas, inshallah ta'ala, and we'll discuss it with the brothers, but hopefully, inshallah, one of the things that we've been talking with some of the brothers about recording for Huda TV soon, inshallah ta'ala, is about the 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and reflecting in detail and inspiring ourselves and moving ourselves through the beautiful names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how to make them part of our life as well, inshallah. Hopefully, inshallah, we'll get the green light for that and we'll start coming soon, inshallah ta'ala.
Excellent. Sheikh, as we're coming towards the end of the questions, I'd just like to ask you, many people will say that the barrier that they have between them and the Quran is the language, and they find it very difficult. Could I just ask you to give some words of inspiration, as yourself somebody who has come to Islam and has learned the language, and mashallah now you're our teacher, what words of inspiration would you give to those that say such a statement?
We talked in detail in the show and in the series about this. If you watch the series, you're going to see we talked about that it is possible to an extent to even benefit from the Quran, even if you don't understand the language. But obviously, you're not going to get the true benefit and the true ability to concentrate unless you have the language. That's clear. And we went into detail about the importance of language and how to benefit. And we gave you some examples if you don't have the language, how you can still benefit and it can still have an impact. But obviously, the key is learning the language of the Quran. And it's something, even if you've seen our last few posts on my Facebook page the last few days, we've been talking in detail about that. And the reality is, people keep making excuses on how to do that. The reality is, you just need to do it. And I actually posted this morning, if you see on my Facebook page, a young boy in Alaska. His name's William. He's not even a Muslim, but he was inspired by the Arabic language when he visited Palestine. And he was only 5 years old. And now he can speak Arabic. He learned how to speak Arabic. But he's in Alaska and he's a non-Muslim. And this is an inspiration for all of us. And how can we as Muslims not know the language, our own language, the language of the Quran, and the language of the Sunnah? And the people always make excuses. But the reality is, if we're really putting effort and really strive, we have the ikhlas and sincerity for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the key. You have the ikhlas and the sincerity, and then you strive. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will make it easy for you. This is a promise from Allah, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in the Quran, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِيمَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. But verily those who strive for us, we will guide them to our ways, and indeed Allah will be with the doers of the good. So if we strive for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sees it from us in ikhlas, He will open the doors for us to be able to understand the Arabic language and to learn it with ease, inshallah ta'ala.
Okay, thank you very much, Sheikh. And my final question is slightly away from your program, but it's an advice actually. Could we at Huda TV get your advice on how we can move forward and how we can be active in the da'wah as well?
I think the brothers are doing a very good job, inshallah. I think they need to continue. Alhamdulillah, they continue to host the mashaykh they're hosting and continue to strive. Alhamdulillah, I think when the viewers also need to help out and be part. We come together as a team, inshallah, as an ummah, and then help out, inshallah, in improving everything. The shows that Huda TV does are very unique, and the speakers that they choose, alhamdulillah, and the mashaykh they choose, or alhamdulillah, the sheikhs who are striving, to follow the Quran and to follow the Sunnah, alhamdulillah. So it's a beautiful thing. We're going to keep up the good work, inshallah ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah.
Okay, Sheikh Abdul Rahim, I greatly appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule and giving us your precious time. So I'd like to thank you very much for that. And I'd also like to conclude by saying Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much. There you go, dear viewers. You heard it direct from the Sheikh himself, who gives us the encouragement to understand the Quran, gives us the encouragement to learn the Arabic language, and not just that, but he also gave the encouragement for the viewers to get involved, for everyone to get involved in da'wah. Da'wah is not just for those who sit in front of the camera, but it's for everybody to get involved, to preach this beautiful message of Al-Islam to every person. Now, before we conclude the program, I want to read some more comments that we have on the topic of poverty. And this comment comes from Brother Ali Masiga Sawali. He says, "It's very sad when you see some people throwing away food remains and others are dying of poverty. It's our responsibility to help anyone around the world who needs our help." Brother Ali summarizes basically the program. Wasting of food, wasting or consuming that which you do not need, throwing away of food. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like it. He, matter of fact, tells us, "Kulu washrabu wa la tusrifu." Eat and drink, but don't be extravagant. Don't waste the food. Don't waste whatever it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. My dear brothers and my dear sisters, we have come to the end of the program, but I want to remind you, before we go, that the issue of poverty is severe. It's dire. People are dying on a daily basis simply because they don't have enough food, they don't have enough water, they don't have the means to live the way we do. And the minimum thing we can do is, number one, show shukr, thankfulness to Allah for what we do have. And secondly, is then to be that good servant of Allah and to give back. Whatever Allah has given you, give back to the people, so that inshallah ta'ala we can raise the standard of those people that are suffering. Inshallah ta'ala we will finish there, and I will be reading your comments on our Facebook page, so continue with our discussion there. And we conclude, and I will see you next week at the same time, at the same place on our wonderful program, Viewers Pulse. So until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We'll talk about Huda, we'll talk about our way. Come join us and have your say. Let's talk about our way. Remember, you are not alone. Huda is the light in your home. We'll talk about Huda, we'll talk about our way. Come join us and have your say. Let's talk about our way. Remember, you are not alone. Huda is the light in your home. Remember, you are not alone. Huda is the